Well, thank you very much. First, let me praise the one that is the creator of all things, that has given us life, that has protected us, guided us, and led us in all that we do and that we say. He who is high and lifted up, whose trail fills the temple, and who cannot be denied, and who rules in the affairs of men. I give him the glory for this morning. I give him the glory for each and every person here. I give him the glory for the author of this wonderful book. I give him the glory for our country, Nigeria. And I praise his holy name this morning, and I acknowledge him before anything else. Praise be to the name of the Most High God. In Jesus' name. Amen. Let me start by acknowledging the chairman and all the distinguished guests on the high table. Let me also acknowledge my beautiful wife, Precious. Let me acknowledge the warriors of truth that are in this room, and there are so many of them. When I see men like Bayo Aladeji, who is a truly righteous man, and I see men like Ario, I see men like Deji Adeyoju, the combative Deji Adeyoju, who fears no man, and I see so many others. There are so many of you here. I want to acknowledge you. I want to thank you for all the efforts you've made for this country and the sacrifices that you have made. God will reward you for all your efforts. I also have to acknowledge the representative of my friend and brother, the former governor of Ondo State, Chief Mimiko. The author of this book is not just a righteous man, but a deeply courageous man. And I acknowledge you, Jude, and God will bless you. And may this book cause doors to open for you, and may it shake the very foundations of this nation. There may not be many people here today, or as many as we expected, but as Shakespeare said, the fewer the number, the greater the share of honor. God will honor you, and I thank all those that have come to stand with you today. I have no doubt, I haven't read the book, but I've read most of Jude's essays. They are compelling, they are strong. He hits the nail on the head. He speaks and writes like a true Igbo man. And you know, I really do love the Igbos. And he is such a blessing. He's a blessing to me, my family, and he has been very consistent. When I was in detention for the first 67 days, between Lagos and Abuja in the dingy cells of the EFCC for doing no wrong, one of the things that kept me going was the fact that men like Jude, men like Adeyoju, Ario, Mustafa, who is there, I've just seen you now, and Nduka, my in-law, and so many others, and of course Bayo, all of them, and so many others throughout this country were not just praying, but were speaking out. And I kept saying to God, please don't let them forget me here. And God kept telling me they will never forget you because they are my children, and I talk to them. So I acknowledge you once again, Jude, and I thank you very much. Now, it's not often that I attend public events. I try my best to keep as much to myself as possible because it allows me to function better, and it allows me to write better. Unfortunately, it's only my wife that has to put up with the eccentricities of a man that just loves to write, because through the night sometimes I write and then I sleep for half of the day, and she is getting used to that type of life. But honestly, for this particular event, we made the time. We had to come because there's so much that we have to share with you and with the rest of the world. And I sincerely hope that this event is being covered properly, because there's some things I had wanted to say elsewhere. I've been invited to so many places. I've declined, but I felt that it was appropriate to use this particular forum to say a few things which I think are important for our country. First of all, let me say this. I stood here in this exact spot I think about 3-4 years ago. 3 years ago, this exact spot. I was invited for a function and I was given the privilege of speaking. And it was before the election, it was before we even started the campaign. I think at that time, yes, it was in October 2 years ago, yeah. And we spoke extensively about what was going on in the country at the time, the APC, the PDP, and of course we spoke extensively about Buhari. And I remember standing here saying a few things. I believe it's on tape. And I told all those that were here, and indeed the world, that General Muhammadu Buhari is not only a Salafist, but he's a deeply wicked man who means nobody any good. And I made some prophetic pronouncements here that day, that if this country made the monumental mistake of electing him as president, or allowing him to be president, which I think is more appropriate, that at the end of the day we would regret it because it would end in division and strife and chaos. It would end in a lot of blood being shed, and it would be very difficult for the Nigerian nation to bear what he carries and what he brings. And it may well end up dividing us and causing many of us to just say, look, enough is enough. Perhaps we should reconsider and redefine this very complicated union that we have been managing for so long. Now, at that time, I really had no idea that what he would end up doing would be almost 10 times worse than even I thought. And these things have to be said, because we say these things behind closed doors and few are ready to say it openly. I've been in politics for almost 30 years. You will not hear the things that you need to hear from 95% of politicians. You know why? Because the system is rigged, as the great Donald Trump would say. In order for you to emerge as a governorship candidate or a senatorial candidate or presidential candidate, you need to be consensual. You must say things that are politically correct. You must not rock the boat, and you must please all the powers that be on both sides of the political divide. Well, I reject that. I won't do that. I believe there's another course, and that course will end ultimately in the acquisition of political power. Why? Because it is the Lord himself that guides us and causes us to take that course, and he didn't guide us simply for us to be talking without any result. So I reject that, and that's why, unlike most politicians, I am ready, willing, and able, and capable of saying what needs to be said, and I leave the issues of security and protection and safety to God. That is God's job, it's not mine. We do the work, we leave everything else to him. And it has worked beautifully for me, and all those other wonderful people in this country that do speak out. I'm not the only one. You have my friend and brother, Governor Ayofayoshe. You have so many that really do speak out at great risk to their lives. But we're proud to do that, we'll continue to do that. So let me just say this, where are we today? You know, I was moved by the words of President Donald Trump when he wrote, it was a tweet actually, he spoke about how the United States of America is not a nation, or the American people are not people that worship government. He said, we are a nation that do not worship government, we worship God. And that America is a nation of people that fear God, that believe in God, and it is a nation of true believers. That is a very fundamental point that he made. And it is the foundation of the very essence of the Trump phenomenon. Because God used him to confound the wisdom of the wise, because he uses foolish things to confound the wisdom of the wise. Somebody that everybody had written off. Somebody that the entire media of the world was fighting against. Somebody that fought against the Obama machine, the same machine that brought Buhari to power in Nigeria. And he managed to succeed. But because his foundation is God, and he was prepared to commit the nation of America to God, and he promised to give the church a voice in America, and he's honored that word, by the way. He's honored that promise. Because he did all these things and God saw his heart, he raised him up. What we need in this country today are leaders that fear God, that are prepared to honor God, that are prepared to dedicate this great nation of ours to God, and that are prepared to speak truth to power, and to let the world know, and the powers that be, particularly those in Aso Drive, Aso Villa, that at the end of the day, all power belongs to God, and that he rules in the affairs of men. That is what we're meant to do. And until we have that kind of leadership, and that kind of spirit-filled person or people within Aso Rock and other key places in this nation, we are not going to go anywhere. So that's the objective, but what's the reality? What do we have today? Last Christmas, it's not news, everybody knew about it, though some still, unfortunately, refuse to own it and they deny it, but it's the reality, it's the truth. Last Christmas, 808 people were slaughtered in the sanctity of their own homes and their own beds in Kaduna by those that some call Fulani herdsmen, that I call the Fulani militia. They were slaughtered. 808 Christians in southern Kaduna. Yesterday, there was a terrible event in Manchester, in England, which the whole world is talking about. 22 died, and that is reprehensible. They targeted little children with specially carefully crafted bombs that have metals and all kinds of things to create maximum damage. And they bombed and killed 8-year-old children and so many others. As we speak now, this matter is still on the air. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, that's all they're talking about. And it is reprehensible, and the death of even one person is worth talking about for 1 week. But the point I'm making is this. In our very own Kaduna, one of the greatest cities, and one of the greatest states in this federation, in this country, 808 people were slaughtered on Christmas Day. Not one, not two, 808. What did we hear? I doubt the BBC even made a mention of it. CNN didn't make a mention of it. Al Jazeera mentioned it in passing, and of course invited all those that were essentially behind this terrible slaughter, and those that were ready to try to rationalize it, to come there and tell the world why it is that their kith and kin have the right to slaughter our Christian brothers and sisters. That's what they've been doing. That tells you one thing: we are on our own. Nobody's going to fix this problem. Only we can fix it. And we must fix it. Because if we don't fix it, every single one of us here, and there are no exceptions to this, every single one of us here is in mortal danger. We must fix this problem. But it didn't stop there. Let's also talk about a year or two ago, when the military slaughtered in cold blood over 1,000, no, not 347, 1,000 Shia Muslims. I believe it was in Zaria. Not only did they kill them, they desecrated their burial grounds, they burnt down their homes, they shot their leader in the eye and blinded him in one eye. They shot his wife 4 times. They killed some of his children. And they slaughtered in one afternoon over 1,000. After the slaughter, they went back the following day and wrought more havoc on their homes, their community, and burnt places down and basically treated them as if they were not human beings. And what has happened? The answer to that question is absolutely nothing. Instead of bringing those that committed this act of genocide to justice, the government instead arrested the leader of that movement, locked him up, and have kept him in detention up until today. He has not been taken to any court. He has not been allowed to speak to the world. He has not been allowed to have even the most basic medical attention or the best medical attention. Instead, he's been locked up by the SSS. Nobody's talking about it, just a few, and his faithful followers that are here. But how many people in this nation are truly moved? Who cares in the international community? They may not speak about it, but we have God who I say again rules in the affairs of men. They didn't just lock him up, they also locked up his wife after shooting her. They're there. These are human beings. And yet we're not stirred. And I consider it a matter of great disgust, and I find it repugnant that the presidency could have said yesterday, when they were asked specifically about this great man of peace who has never indulged in violence, who has never encouraged his supporters and followers to carry arms or even to defend themselves under provocation. He's never done that. And what the presidency said was that they were holding him under protective custody. The question is, who are they protecting him from? Who has threatened his life? Who wants him? Are you okay? If it's not the government itself and the security forces, who wants him dead? I reject that notion that the government will blind a man, kill his people, shoot his wife, desecrate his home and their burial grounds, keep him in indefinite detention, and then have the nerve and the effrontery to turn around and say they keep him in protective custody. Yet, the tragedies don't stop there. Let me move on to the issue of our friends and brothers from the East, the leader of IPOB and so many other groups from the Southeast who are seeking to fight for the principle of self-determination. It's an academic argument, it's an intellectual exercise. Happens everywhere in the world. I don't want to be part of this country anymore. Oh, why? Because you're not treating me fairly. What a rational, sensible government would do would be to reach out and say, okay, what's wrong? It's like you have a wife in the house. Let me just do it aside. And the wife says, I'm going. You know how many of you that are wives here do it from time to time? I'm going. Pack my bags. And you're still bluffing for a while. When you really see the woman is going, what do you have to do? You go and meet her and you beg her. You pet her. Happens to us all. I'm tired, I'm going. You don't lock the gate, lock the door, hold her down by the throat and beat her black and blue and say you're not going anywhere. You have to win her over. You have to talk to her. You have to woo her all over again. And you have to make her have confidence in you that you will treat her well. And no matter what you've done, if you do that and you add a little bit of prayer to it, definitely she will stay. But in our case, when those from the East, led by Nnamdi Kanu and so many other gallant men who are also risking their lives, say they want to leave because the Igbos are not getting a fair deal in this country, instead of being booed and being persuaded to stay, they are met with bullets, murder, state-sponsored murder, incarceration. They are insulted from morning, day, and night in the media. They are treated as if they are animals. And you know, theirs is actually the worst case because nobody talks about it. And the political leaders in the East, bar a few, and I have immense respect for the chairman of Ohaineze, the new chairman, and a few others, but most of them, there's this collusion and conspiracy of silence. Whilst their young men and women are being slaughtered morning, day, and night, and many are being locked up. Again, I say this is unacceptable, and this is part of the baggage that comes with a Buhari presidency. It's predictable. Now, the greatest insult of all was for them to say yesterday, from the presidency, that Buhari, if he were to run in 2019, and that likely is that he would run, that he would win. Is there any greater evidence of what Ruben Abati called the villa curse than that? You do not know whether the man is alive or dead because you said you haven't seen him. You do not know whether he is a vegetable because you haven't seen him. You do not know whether he can walk or he can talk. You don't know his condition, but you do know by his own words that he's chronically ill. And you do know that when he came back to the country a few weeks ago, he couldn't attend any function at all, except one Federal Executive Council meeting right at the beginning, going to the mosque on, I think, 3 weeks consecutively on a Friday, receiving the Chibok girls and 2 or 3 other photo ops. Outside of that, he did nothing. Then he had to be flown back, and we didn't see him going, we didn't see him arriving, we've heard nothing. And you have the nerve to tell the Nigerian people that this man that is obviously sick, this man that if you truly love him, and you are one of his supporters, or one of his backers, and indeed one of his inner circle, you will say, sir, please try your best to do the right thing. Your health is more important than anything else because we love you. Step down, leave this matter, leave it, and give power, full power, to your second in command. If they truly loved him, that's what they would say. Not that he will run in 2019 and that he will win. The difference between some of us and them is this. When we worked for President Obasanjo and I was his spokesman for 3 years, behind the scenes, we spoke truth to him. We spoke truth to him on matters like third term and so many other things. He may have made his decision to do whatever he wanted to do anyway, because that's the type of person he is. He's a great man, a powerful man, far stronger than Buhari, far stronger than any other man that I have ever worked for. But he encouraged his aides and his ministers to tell him the truth. And I remember sometimes we'd argue in council for 3 hours against the president. Nasir El-Rufai, when he was Nasir El-Rufai, not what he has become today, Obi Ezekwesili, we would stand up and say, no, we don't agree, Mr. On virtually every policy decision he took. And he loved that. No aide of Obasanjo or member of Obasanjo's government that's close to him, if Obasanjo was in this critical condition, none of them, in fact, he would query you to say, oh, from the Buhari camp, you will hear such nonsense. Now, I wish the president well. I pray for him. I pray that God forgives him of all his sins. I pray that God revives him and strengthens him. I pray that God touches his heart, that he will become truly born again and desist from inflicting wickedness and evil and bringing poverty and shame to the Nigerian people. If the Lord can touch the heart of Paul, or rather Saul, and made him into Paul, nobody is beyond redemption. That is my prayer for him. That he will come back a redeemed and a changed man to right the wrongs that he has inflicted on so many of us and on this nation. He can't bring life back, but he can show repentance and he can rebuild this nation and build bridges. He can still repent. It's never too late for anybody. But outside of that, I'm afraid to say that God's judgment speaks. Because the Bible says there is no rest and there can be no rest for the wicked. So, what are the lessons? The lessons are this. And let me round up by saying this. Do not continue to worship and follow and believe in and trust people that are prepared to destroy your lives, your homes, your going in and coming out, your economy, devalue your money, question and destroy your way of life. The church has been treated in a very contemptuous manner by this administration. The president has point blank refused to even meet with the leadership of CAN. He has not met with them. He has refused to meet with them. This is the body that represents the over 60 million Christians in this country. The president refused to meet with them. They have treated the church and church leaders with disdain and contempt. They have also, I spoke earlier about what they did to the Shia Muslims, treated them with disdain and contempt. They have treated Southerners in this country, every Southerner. I'm very close to the leadership of both sides of this divide in the Southwest. I'm close to the APC group. I'm very close. I've known Tinubu for many years. And I admire him and I like him a lot. He knows this. I'm also close to others in his camp. We were all in Nadego together. I'm also close, obviously, to the group that I belong to. At the time of the election, we split the Southwest into two. They got 51% of the votes for Buhari. We got 49%. But that's all gone now. But I'll tell you this, even those that supported Buhari in the Southwest, in 2015 are tired and they're fed up. And most of them are scared, plotting and planning to use another platform and telling us behind closed doors, you were right. But please don't tell the world that we told you this. We're scared of this man. And I'm saying that perfect love casts out fear. What is your fear? Because if you don't rise up and cause the South, and I say the South, the Southeast, the South-South, the Southwest, that those three zones become united and stand with one accord against the evil that we are being subjected to by those that believe that they own Nigeria. Until that happens, we will not see emancipation. That's why I don't waste my time. I've done it in the past. Igbo-Yoruba debate, Ijo-Yoruba debate, Ijo-Igbo debate. All this is absolute rubbish. That is just an intellectual answer. For today, whatever you believe happened 50 years ago, 100 before the Igbos, between the Igbos, is irrelevant. The fact is we're all going under this terrible siege that we've all been subjected to. And those that joined hand with the forces of retrogression and the forces of subjugation to enslave their own people, they are regretting it. And it's time for us to open arms and say, well, we forgive you, let there be peace and unity between us, and let us stand together against the foe that seeks to enslave each and every one of us. Now, I will also say one word concerning the people of the Middle Belt. We know what the Igbos have been through. We know that on the night of January 29th, 1966, 300 Igbo officers from the army were massacred in cold blood. Yes, in retaliation for the January 15th coup, where you had about 20 leaders from virtually every zone except from the east that were murdered by primarily Igbo soldiers. But 6 months later or so, because it involved everybody, we killed 300 Igbo officers in cold blood in the middle of the night, shot the Igbo head of state, and at the same time killed his Yoruba host, Major General Faji, who said he would not leave him to die. We did that. Nigeria did that. A few months later, no less than 100,000 Igbos were slaughtered in cold blood. 100,000 in the space of 3-4 months. There was the initial program, the second one, all over the north. They will go from hospital to hospital, house to house, looking for pregnant women, cutting open the stomach, pulling the baby out and dashing its head against a stone. That's what they were subjected to. And of course, after that, as they went home to the east, because Ojukwu said come home, at each train station, they were stoned, they were insulted, they were humiliated, and they were, people were shooting bows and arrows at them. But they got home, and then of course the war began. And during the course of that war, we, Nigeria, you and I, every single one of us, we killed over 2 million of them. And it didn't stop there. We boastfully told the world when they complained, when they saw kwashiorkor-ridden children on the screens, dying children, starving to death, we boastfully proclaimed to the world that the starvation of children is a legitimate weapon of war. We committed genocide. And not only did we commit it, we committed it against children. And we told the world that it is legitimate, that it's okay to do that because we're at war. Well, of course, we know that stands against the law of war itself, and today it is classified and would be classified as a crime against humanity. But that is gone, buried. Nobody's talking about it, and we did that to them. After doing that, after the Civil War, what did we do? We told them to come home, no victor, no vanquished, integrated it. Yet we took away all their property, everything, except for the Southwest. And I always argue about this, but it's the truth. In Lagos, 90% of the Igbos that came back got their properties back. 90%. Everywhere else, the North, the South, they took everything from them. They had no home to go back to, and they called it abandoned property. We did that to them. Not only that, if an Igbo man had, I believe, £1 million in a bank, we called it victor, no vanquished. But that Igbo man that had £1 million in the bank, after the war, he was told, sorry, your money is gone. We'll only give you £20. That is the Igbo experience. And like I said, we've argued with them and disputed who started tribalism, who did this. We've done, but that's academic. But the reality is that we did this to them. And it took Obasanjo's intervention, how many years? 1999, before any Igbo man could be trusted to be even a GOC in the Nigerian army. And of course, Jonathan came in. It's one of the reasons why I love him so much. He came in and he fully reintegrated them and he brought them back in. Now Buhari has come, we are back to square one. Even worse, because of course he never even campaigned in the southeast, because he saw them as being almost subhuman, people he didn't need to bother about. Now, I said all this because I want to compare it to something else, then I'll round up and I'll finish. The people of the Middle Belt, if you believe that the Igbos suffered immeasurably, which they did, and if you have any compassion and humanity in you, you will agree with me that what they went through was reprehensible and unacceptable, and there should be retribution. There should be not only retribution for those involved, they should be brought to justice. Apart from that, there should also be massive compensation for them for what they were subjected to. But they suffered, but another group suffered probably more than they did, if you can possibly believe that. Trust me, I'm telling you the truth. And who are those people? The people of the Middle Belt of Nigeria. Not only have they been slaughtered over the years, and I'm talking about 100 years. I'm going back to the time of the Jihad of Usman Dan Fodio, where hundreds of thousands were killed. And of course there are issues concerning Dan Fodio's legacy, which I'm not prepared to discuss here. But the reality is that many were slaughtered at that time from what we call the northern region of Nigeria today. It went on. They were stripped of their identity, their being. They were told that they must speak somebody else's language in the name of One North. They were told that Christianity was something of an inferior faith, and in some parts they weren't even allowed to build churches. Their priests and their prophets were slaughtered. Their people were insulted. There are some that will say, if you want to control a man from Benue State, they will tell you, I'm talking about those that could perpetrate this crime, they'll tell you that all you need to do is give him money, money, women, and alcohol, and you've got him. They were stripped of everything. All their key leaders that rose up, people like Paul Gindri, of blessed memory, and so many others, even Joseph Taka, they had so many great men. All of them either murdered or pulled down. That is the experience of the people of the Middle Belt. That is the experience particularly of the Christians of the Middle Belt. Slaughter, murder, remove their identity, strip them bare, cause them to forget their own history, that they had a history. They came from somewhere, a proud legacy. They took away all that from them and called them Northerners in the name of One Arewa. Well, I have news for you and I have news for them. There is no One Arewa anymore. That ended long ago. Today, the Middle Belt is a reality. The same Middle Belt that was fought for by the people from that region in 1957 at the Willits Commission, when my father represented them and argued, put the case, that they should have their own region. And of course, the Arewas said no, and they fought against it. But it's a reality. All those who are being slaughtered in their homes, whose children are having their throats cut, whose wives are being raped before their very eyes, whose pastors and prophets are being slaughtered at the altar, all those who cry in the middle of the night and say, we have become slaves, we don't have a history, we don't have a language, we can't speak out, we're terrified, and we must bow to our masters every night and every morning if we want to live. I say all those people have hope because God is not asleep. He's alive. And there's a new reality now. We acknowledge your suffering, but we also acknowledge the fact that God is alive and He is restoring you. He's resurrecting you to be what you were ordained to be. And he's equipping you and preparing you to resist the evil that you have been subjected to. That every Hausa man will know that there was a happy empire, that he has a proud history and a proud legacy. Before those that came from Futajalo told them they never did. That every person, every northern minority will know who and what he is. That you don't have to sacrifice your ethnic nationality simply because you want to be part of a wider Nigeria. You can have both. I can be a proud Ijaw man, or I can be a proud Berom, and at the same time be a faithful and loyal Nigerian. You don't have to write away my history. You don't have to tell me I'm nothing. You don't have to bury me in your own history and subjugate me and turn me into a slave. Now finally I will say this. My belief and my dream and my vision is to have not just a united South, but for the men and women of the South to join forces with the good people of the Middle Belt and insist on real change, fundamental change, to restructure this country and create a new beginning, to ensure that every Nigerian, regardless of his faith, regardless of his tribe, including the Fulani, every single one of us has rights in this country. The right to worship, the right to associate with who you will want to associate with, the right to be who you are, and the right to say, I am somebody, my people come from somewhere. And I go back 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 generations, and I can trace my lineage. Each and every one of us should be able to say that. And I can trace the history of my people. I know who I am. You can't take it away from me. We must join forces. We must come together. We must stand strong. And we must not allow this evil contraption to strip us of our humanity, or to strip us of our courage, because we know that God is with us. So what are we scared of? The worst that can happen, the worst that can happen, and it will not happen in Jesus' name, is for them to take life. So, how many lives have they taken? And yet the struggle continues. They've taken so many far more worthy of life than any of us sitting in this room have been killed for saying and doing nothing. So what is your fear? The Bible says, absent in the body, present with who? The Lord. He has taken away the sting of death. We have nothing to fear. If you die, particularly if you die in Christ, you go to a better place. And when you get there, the first question they will ask you is, what did you do for the cause of righteousness and justice? And that's what should motivate us, not what we can get from the federal government or from any state government or from any state governor. And I say that we must come together. And I'll end with this. Not only must we come together, we must also encourage, empower, and strengthen men like Judun Dugwe, who has committed his life and everything that he is, his being, to this struggle. He became a thorn in the flesh of this government. Anyway, when I was detained, both first and second time, you go there, they'll say, who is Jude? Are you the one asking Jude to? I said, how could I read Jude? But he won't stop, because that's how he is. He has become a thorn in the flesh of this government. Rightly so, because where there's injustice, and you are sitting in your home doing nothing, and you're just saying, well, I'll be praying for them. There's plenty of room for prayer, but faith without works is dead. You've got to stand for something. You've got to stand for something. Martin Luther King said, if you're not prepared to lose your life for something, then you're not worthy of living for anything. This is your country. Take it back. Take it back. Finally, let me end with this. I will say a prayer, and I encourage each and every one of you here to do the same. For every single political prisoner that is still in the dungeons of the SSS, the FCC, I'm talking about people like Dasuki, people like Ifeanyi Ubah, who they say is worthy of death, and so many others. Nnamdi Kanu's men, strong men that are still in Kuje prison. You don't have any idea how bad it is. And let me tell you something, as somebody that's been locked up for 3 months, those that are locked up like that, they will only tell you 10% of what they saw. It's like going to the war front. Those that really fight, and they're in the thick of the fight, when they come back, they hardly talk about it. They will not tell you what they've been, but they have been subjected to the worst. And they are being subjected to the worst. They are there now as we speak. They are being locked up for what? Because they disagree with the government, they speak out against the government, and because they are perceived as being a threat to the ambitions of those that are in power for 2019. I end with this. I call on the cabal that runs this country, and I know who they are. I know who they are. I won't mention the names here. I did write about them, I think about 2 weeks ago, where I mentioned 4 or 5 names, but I won't repeat it here. I know who they are. There are about 5 of them. And they are the ones running this country now. And no, it's not the obvious ones like Abba Kyari, my good friend from Cambridge University, not him. No, it's not the NSA. It's not, those are relatively junior people in the power configuration that I'm talking about. I know who is running this country now. There are 5 of them. And they know I know them, and I know each and every one. From a very young age, I know who they are. And I call on them, let me end with this, I call on them to allow my people to go.